ladies and gentlemen, Roland Emmerich. As Roland sits, I just want to say a huge thank you to Lionsgate and IMAX for doing this with Collider. This is our first screening in 2 years due to COVID, and I just want to thank you for doing this with us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. I know you've also been promoting for the last few days nonstop, and I know that coming to do more talking is not necessarily, top of the list. But thank you.
Okay.
So I have a ton of questions, and let us get started. And I believe we are all set. You're also on Facebook Live, by the way, so
okay.
No, I'll probably curse, who's kidding who. So I like throwing some curveballs at the beginning. If someone has actually never seen any movie that you've directed, what's the first thing you want them watching and why?
They should just lean back, enjoy the movie, with a good... like bucket of popcorn.
No, but I mean, what's the first movie of yours that they should watch if they've never seen anything that you've done?
Oh, maybe Stargate.
That's
a good start, right?
Which of your films changed the most in the editing room compared to what you thought going in?
I think that was like 10,000 BC. That was like that was like a tough movie to cut down, just like because of the endlessly long, travel shots we had, et cetera, et cetera. And to bring this down to the lengths, it was necessary. That was quite a challenge.
Did you have like a crazy long first cut that you...
Yeah, it was like 3 hours. But that was like even for me too long. I said, where can we cut out some shots?
What was the final running time on that one? Do you remember?
I think it was like 2 hours and 50, 10 or 15, something like that.
So there's a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor.
Yes. Yes.
If I read, and I could be wrong, I read that you were interested in being a production designer, and then you went to see Star Wars, and that sort of changed your life.
No.
Okay. Everything you read on the internet is not true.
It's not true, exactly. I was actually already on the film school. I just had signed up, and in the same year, 2 movies came out in fall in Europe. One was Star Wars, and one was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And that kind of some sort of not made me, all of a sudden want to do something different. It was like a 3 or 4 or 5 year process which did that.
So do you remember, what was your reaction when you saw Star Wars, when you were much younger? Did it have like a real profound effect?
Well, it had a profound effect, and also had Close Encounters, I mean, they deeply, deeply impressed me. And I actually got shied away from directing because of that. Because I just couldn't believe that I will ever be some sort of okay director, And when you do production design, you have always you try to make it look good, and that's that. And it took me a while. I think it was like Joey when I kind of started to think, it was my second film. Joey, I kind of thought, maybe I should do this, But only when I came to America, I kind of thought, okay, this is like it, Now I have to direct 2 or 3 movies, and then we'll see.
What was it like for you then, having these sci-fi movies have such an impact on you when you started directing sci-fi? Was there like a day on one of the sets that you're like, I can't effing believe I'm doing this?
Well, it's like, look, it's for example, my graduation film, Das Eisenhower-Prinzip, is the only movie I ever shot in German. And, and at the very beginning, we were 4 students who wanted to all put their money together. And one by one, they all dropped out. And I was supposed to do the production design. So I kind of took over the directing, production design, directing. And I ended up in the Berlin Film Fest, in competition with that film. And it was like kind of such a out of body experience for me that I kind of said, okay. And I remember there was like kind of the big 200 journalists, and they had just like finished the other press conference, and it was for, I think it was for whoever it was, there was Jack Nicholson sitting there. Jack Nicholson was sitting there, and I was for sure not sitting in the same chair. So I sat totally on the outside. And then the first question was, how old are you guys, And I said, well, old enough. It was like just a huge laugh, and then, there was that, And I remember that, my parents always said, like, what are you doing constantly on TV? They said, like, this is like really odd, They felt it very odd, that their son is in, there's so much interest about me.
You have directed over 20 films. Which of those was the hardest to get financed, and why?
Wow, it's just like, I never really had problems to get a movie financed, because so far, so good. Because look, it's like everybody like says Midway was a total disaster, but it wasn't. I think the equity investors are $2 million away from breaking even. That's very early, so they will make like $6, $7, $8, $9 million, on this movie. And I think when you do this right, then you don't have that. To make that much money, because it's a thing, where people like say, oh, this has to make 2 or 3 times that money in the theaters, but it's not true. That's not true.
You're telling me that Hollywood lies about finances?
No, that they make their movies too expensive, and they make their movies, they spend too much on advertisement. Because a movie is like either good or mediocre or bad, and it will anyway happen as it will happen. So, it's like just, the truth, And when you like kind of I mean, I had like, for example, for this movie, $138 million, right? And 11 million goes alone away for financing. Then you have to spend $1.5 million for the completion bond, and then we had like 5.6 million in COVID costs. That all goes off the movie budget, and then you have like $118 million, and that's what you have, and you have to live with it.
I appreciate what's funny is not everyone is willing to talk about numbers, and I really appreciate you talking about it because.
But it's like kind of, I mean, it's this kind of thing, nobody talks about it, but it's like kind of, I think that's wrong, Also, I have the feeling, that, it's super hard these days to get original IP going, I mean, just original IP. It can be anything, if it's like a comedy or anything. And when you like look at it, it's very rare that original IPs have any chance anymore.
Yeah, I'm not to bring in another movie, but I think about what Sean Levy did with Free Guy this year, opening something that, was based on nothing. Mm-hmm. It's rare for the studios to even make these movies. Yeah,
but they're only like kind of well made by Fox.
It was made at Fox.
Yeah, exactly. It was. Fox had like kind of still a knack for original programming.
I wanted,
but not anymore. That's
yeah. Sure. That's I won't open that door. So a lot of filmmakers go back and revisit some of their older movies and like will tweak it or make an extended cut or fix some VFX. Do you have any interest in actually going back and looking and tweaking any of your older movies, doing a new cut of it, or are you sort of like these are in the past? I don't want to touch these.
Well, they're like kind of they are what they are. You know what I mean? Why fixing them? I mean, I understand that like Lucas at one point wanted to go back and fix some stuff, but I don't think he made it better.
I would agree with you.
So, why, doing that? I mean, it's the movie is what it is, and then, you make your next one.
Before we get into Moonfall, my last thing, I want to sort of do a little bit of a word association with you with some of your movies, and I would like you to sort of mention a word or two when you think back on these films, whether it be because of the shoot, whether it be whatever it is. So when I mention Universal Soldier, what do you think?
Running down face forward the Hoover Dam.
Stargate.
Seeing a pyramid land, a spaceship land on a pyramid.
Independence Day.
Will Smith's knocking out the alien.
Godzilla.
A movie I never wanted to make.
Can you elaborate?
Oh, it was like kind of one of these things where I did everything I could to not make the movie. And whatever I did, I kind of, I failed. I made him slimmer, I made him faster. It didn't look at all like the original Godzilla. And they like always said, yes, 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 yes.
The Patriot.
There was like one scene, where Mel shows his real face, and that's when he gobbles when he beats the head of the thing over and over, and then more and more blood spritzes in, and we like see his three sons, three sons, looking at him like they don't know their father anymore.
The Day After Tomorrow.
There was like a scene in there where like kind of they see a ship going through Fifth Avenue, and that was pretty cool.
I'm actually going to I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do Stonewall.
Misunderstood.
Have you ever? Oh, no, I want to skip that. People love watching the end of the world movies. What is it about the genre that you think people keep coming back to it? Something that people love watching.
First of all, even the Bible ends with a big catastrophe. And when I did Independence Day, there was a huge destruction sequence in there. And I really realized, I'm onto something. And I somewhat created my own genre, because when you when you can, have an alien invasion, and there is room for something like that, that's always great. And it starts with a White House exploding and ends with Boomer jumping into safety. And that was like a 6 or 7 minute sequence. And the people were just speechless then. And I kind of thought, okay, cool. Then, maybe 2002 or 2001, I was like kind of had a script for Day After Tomorrow. And I tried to make it look as much as Independence Day as possible. And actually tricked Hollywood because they bought something which they later regretted. And but it was a big hit for them, but they felt uneasy about it, and they were like kind of stunned at the success of this movie.
I know a lot of people that really love Day After Tomorrow.
Oh yes, and it's I think it was ahead of its time, but what can you say? Nothing has changed anyway politically, so that's for sure. And yeah, and this was like kind of, and then then I said I make now my last disaster movie, and that was 2012, the movie, and I packed everything in there, everything what I ever could come up with, it was in this movie. And yeah, and that was that. And then I read all of a sudden a book called Who Built the Moon. And it's an English book by 2 writers, and I said, what's that? But then I needed like 3 or 4, 5 years to get used to the fact that I'm making a disaster movie again, but I had it play mostly in space. You know what I mean? When you look at the movie, it's first all the race to get into space, and then it stays in space until the very end, and only intercut by what's happened to the family.
I want to go backwards though. Every movie changes from when you first start out to what people see on screen. What were like some of the dramatic changes that Moonfall went through when you were putting it together?
It was just too long. That was like kind of one of these movies where I had a really long script and we had to hone it down. But the moment we had a problem, we couldn't test. At the very beginning, they didn't let us test. So we tested actually too late. And then we realized all of a sudden, well, the people are much more interested in space than they are in destruction on Earth. That's what was the overall thing, and they were more interested in what's happening in space, and that's what we did. You know, we like kind of then more and more had like kind of the focus on the space part.
You mentioned earlier that you had like your 10,000 BC was 3 hours, your first cut. Did you have a much longer cut of Moonfall?
No. It was like under 135 minutes or so.
You have the third act of this movie is loaded with VFX, and you mentioned that you obviously have a budget. You have a lot of money, but you don't have an unlimited amount of money. How can you sort of talk about the challenges of making a film of this like spectacle on the budget that you had?
Well, the first thing is I shot the movie in 61 days. That's a very, very rare occurrence. There was no second unit. I kind of actually directed both units, the main unit and then something I call the splinter unit. And I had to cut out like 8 or 9 days from my shooting schedule. And it was already very short, by the way, you know, and that was the first thing. And then we had like a line producer who always like lied to us. Because I said, we're like out of money, we're out of money. And then at the end, we had like kind of 4.5 million left. And that was good because we needed that for the visual effects because they naturally were much more costly.
Well, as I said, the third act, I don't want to do spoilers because we're live, but the third act, you go into the moon. There are some very complicated VFX shots, you know, and obviously those are not, for things like this, how does it work in terms of the behind the scenes on the cost when you're going to like a studio, whatever, double negative or whoever it may be? How does it work in terms of, if you don't mind talking about it, like the negotiation of how much things will cost going in versus what it actually is? Does it change a lot in post?
Well, what you do is like you try to lose stuff overall and then pack it into the third act. That's most of the time what happens, you know. There is a lot of little stuff which you can just lose, right? And then you like concentrate from the middle on to the end. And that's what we did too. The only kind of the opening scene was exactly what it's supposed to be. And then we had to anyway cut down time because everybody wanted to have them go up into space. And then when they're in space, you know, you like kind of have to spend the money. And we didn't had enough money, but then because our line producer was lying to us, we had money. And we like used it very carefully.
You've talked about in the past that you were surprised that NASA was willing to put their name on this. What were you, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised because it does have like a conspiracy theory about the moon.
I know.
So what was your reaction actually? When did you find out NASA was going to be involved and were you like, wait?
Well, it was like kind of officially sent to NASA to support it. And I said, will never not happen, right? And it happened. I think they changed their whole tune, you know, because they probably see like kind of movies in a different way. They have also like I think a different guy who's like running that kind of thing, and Bert, and he's like kind of super relaxed. And he said to us like it's very simple. Certain things you cannot show, and certain things we help you. And when it comes down later to promote the movie, let's only talk about how we helped you to kind of get all the orbits of the moon right and the space shuttle right and all these kind of things.
What were some of with their involvement, I'm imagining they gave you visual assets that you can use to help make it look more realistic. What were some of the shots that they maybe gave you footage for?
Well, we couldn't, because even their material is not good enough for us. Because everything is moving, you know? I mean, it's like, you cannot like, when you like, for example, go around, you know, like, let's say you have like on one side Earth and on the other side the moon. First of all, a shot like this is not existing, you know, and then there's ways to paint Earth, you know, which looks totally photoreal. And then you can do whatever you want with it. And the same thing goes with for the moon. But they helped us a lot, you know, of super detailed, you know, images, you know, of the moon, you know, and that was like super helpful. I mean, really super helpful, because normally on when you go like on the internet, you know, they're not that detailed. There you have to go like kind of, it's like kind of these step-by-step things, you know, and it's super complicated, but it's like they helped us a lot.
How does it, I really like John Bradley in this movie. He's very funny. He has to deliver the conspiracy theory. He has to do a lot, and he's very good in it. Had you been watching Game of Thrones and said, I want that guy?
Yeah, that's how it happened.
Well,
he played Samuel, and he played him so good. And I saw how he got older and older in the 5, 6, 7 years, as long as it was running, and he got like more manly, and you know, and it was like kind of really amazing what he did, you know. And he always kept everything. It was either emotional or funny.
he's very good in the movie.
Oh no, he's like, and I kind of said, I need that guy, you know.
How does it work? Because I believe you made this independently. You know, you did this on your own, if you will. How did it work?
That's the only thing where Lionsgate has a word into. They're like kind of making their contract, you know, like a thing. We have to be, you know, like kind of some sort of in casting at least, you know.
Well, that's what.
You know, like 50-50.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you specifically. Obviously, Lionsgate is your partner on this movie. I'm not trying to say Lionsgate is not involved. They're clearly very involved. How did it work in terms of the casting? Where, like, did you have ideas of who you wanted, and then who are you bouncing those ideas off of?
Well, mainly it's like it's internal Centropolis, and then you know we go to you know like kind of to Lionsgate and have like our you know like casting meetings, and then we like kind of we say, oh, what about this? What about that? And they're always like kind of relatively cool, because what they say is if you have one big name in it, then they're fine. And that's was Halle Berry. And we also then went to Halle Berry first, because we needed a big name. And I was like actually not expecting her to say yes, and she said yes, and that was that.
You have a lot of, we've talked about the VFX in this movie. What was the shot or shots that you were like, fuck, these are really hard?
It was all the you know, the swarm shots. Everything with the swarm was like just, because it was like two companies had to do it, like Framestore and DNEG. And they like kind of very, 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 needed very long to come to a conclusion how to make it look. So first of all, they had like totally different you know, like kind of technical way how to do them, and they were totally different. That was the first problem. Second was they had just like not understood it, and then we had to kind of tell them a little bit how to do them. And Pete was very involved in that, and we like kind of kept nagging on it, you know. And it was very, very late that they finished them. I mean, every both companies very, very late.
You have a car chase or a car sequence in Changing Gravity in this movie. Talk a little bit about how do you script that and how do you design it?
Well, that was our. We wanted to kind of make one car scene, which is like super crazy, and it was like a much more wilder even than. But then we got like a little bit believability problems, and then we toned it down, and at the end it was like maybe half as long. But actually, it was good because the people anyway wanted to see more the moon inside and what happens to our main character, then get bogged down by that. But I think what's now in there is super great. I mean, it's like I love it now because it was way too long. I mean, it was just like too long.
The inside, again, this is minor spoilers for people that are watching. You eventually get inside the moon, and there is a superstructure. And I'm curious, like, how did you actually come up with the design of that? Is that something that you're thinking about? Are you working with a production designer? How does that all get figured out?
That was like kind of Kirk, me, and Harold, and a guy called Johannes Mücke. And we met the first time actually in Mykonos, because it was like just the fastest way. We were like anywhere in Mykonos, and he then just hopped on a plane, and then we're like kind of just had the first talk about it, and there was clear that there has to be no engine, so it has to be like kind of some sort of rings, which propelled the moon and balance it out, and there was we had a whole system, going, and then we also like kind of said there has to be like some sort of a grid around it, because there is like kind of all these discharges, and then inside are the 3 or 4 habitat rings, and that relatively was created relatively early.
Donald Sutherland is in the movie. He has a small part. Did he originally have something bigger, or was it always just that little bit?
It was only that scene.
How was he apprehensive about taking the role? He's like, oh, this is my kind of role.
First of all, he gave us like high notes on the script, and then he said, but I cannot do it. And then luckily we have like Rogue Sutherland, his son, involved in this movie. He's a big agent for independent financing at CIA. And we asked him and said, can you not like convince your dads, to make this movie? And then he said, well, where do they shoot that? And I said, just outside of your house. Because he has a house on a lake, which is like half an hour away from Montreal. We were in Montreal. And then he like said, I'm an oxygen, I cannot do this. And then we said, look, we can make this happen for you. And I'm even willing to kind of get in a like suit, and the 2 operators go into a suit, and then we can do it. And then he said, okay. And then it was back and forth, and then finally we talked him into it. And then he was fantastic. I mean, oh my God. What an amazing actor. I mean, it's just amazing. And we were a little bit, we had kind of, I always had the wish to shoot with Donald Sutherland. That was that's why I like kind of said I have to, I'm even like putting a suit on,
So you guys, just to be clear, when you say suit, you mean one of these like COVID hospital type things?
Hospital type. And I was like running around with that all day.
Do you have photos of this?
No.
Oh.
I said like no photos.
Got it. I just want to see you in the suit, and you know what I mean.
No. It's like kind of I then didn't even had to really wear it, but I for him I was wearing it.
You read a book that inspired you to make this, the conspiracy theory about the moon having something inside. Have you read? Is there another conspiracy theory that you've read that you're like, oh, that would be a good movie?
Not really. I also think I have to kind of stop with the conspiracy theories because, QAnon is just too scary, right? I mean, and 25-30% of Americans believe in that. That's like scary.
It's messed up.
It's messed up, and they believe that Democrats mainly, and they like kind of live off the blood of human babies. Now there has to be a shortage of babies around for that really to happen, but
It's
save the children.
yeah.
Anyhow.
I think I would like to open it up to the audience for a few questions. I just want to make sure there was nothing on this sheet that. I have something else or two, but I want to open it up. I think we need the special IMAX bubble, the thing. We'll go here.
Oh, yeah, cool. Hey, what's up? I think we talked back in September, and I told you how much I like this movie a lot with Harold. And speaking of Harold, yeah, because you were working with him as your composer for a while. He wrote the movie on this one with you. So has it changed where now, because he's involved in the writing process, he actually starts writing the movie, like writing the score or the themes as you're shooting?
Well, when we're writing, that's the first part.
Yeah.
There's nothing he can do really.
Yeah.
But then the moment I'm start shooting,
Yeah.
he kind of creates certain themes, plays them to me, etc., and then slowly,
Yeah.
the music score, and then sometimes he's also totally where I say, I don't like that much.
Yeah.
I think you have to go more electronic or this kind of things, and yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. You go.
Right over here.
Hey, I still think to this day Independence Day is the greatest disaster film ever made. At the LA Palm Hotel in this movie, I couldn't help but notice that the wall was the carpet from The Shining, and I see Steve has got the shirt on. I don't know if he noticed that too, but I was just wondering if there was any reason behind that.
Oh well, we're like all fans. It's it was just like a fan idea, and sometimes you want to, do a nod to a great director, and and you kind of plaster your hotel, also with the same wallpaper.
Cool.
I was just going to say real quick, I want to give a shout out to my friend Jimmy, who may or may not, wave high. He may or may not be in Independence Day. May or
He's
may not.
This young man was probably, was in Independence Day. He was the son of Randy Quaid.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I apologize. We'll go right here.
Hi, my name is Mike. My question was, with Casey's character, because I know we're on live and we can't say spoilers, was his character's arc always supposed to progress the way it did? With Casey's character, throughout the
Well, it was
beginning?
from the very beginning a character we wanted to kind of take up there. And it was always this kind of interesting thing, we had once a scene where he happily goes up there, and then we said, nah, that's kind of not gonna work, and then I said maybe we would go exactly the opposite way, and that was the best version, I think, and it was a lot, to do with the everyman, who as a kid was too chubby to be an astronaut, finally can go up there. And it's kind of the fulfillment of his life.
Before we get to another question, I actually have one for you. You've done 20-something movies now. How has your directing style on set changed from when you first started to, say, making Moonfall, in terms of, are you more relaxed about storyboards? Are you more looking for more takes or less takes now? How has it changed?
I think I got a little bit more economic. I'm not shooting too much, and I'm also I was at the very beginning, I have to admit, the first 3-4 weeks, super under stress, because the stress just got to me. I mean, I was how will I ever finish this movie, right? And then actually my first assistant director was a woman. She like kind of all of a sudden burst into tears, and ran away, and I immediately behind her. And then I said, what's going on? What's going on? And she says, nobody and nothing can make you happy. And these people around you, they want to work for you. They would like kill themselves for you. So please be respectful. And that was like for me, amazing thing, because I said, I promise you, and then I was relaxed. Because I kind of said, like, look, if this happens or not happens, it's not my problem, really. Because I will work as fast as I can, and when we not get it in time, then we have to kind of make maybe cuts or so. But actually, we never ever made cuts to the script.
Oh, do you typically, I know you had 61 days to do this. On average, how many takes do you actually like to do when you're doing something like this and you have a limited time to get your shots?
Well, it's like what I do is like I shoot a master. And in the master is for me the rehearsal. And I make like 6, 7, 8, 9 shots of those, and that's it. And then when I'm shooting close up, it's only 1 or 2 or 3. And that's like how I work. And sometimes it's only 1 shot, anyway. And for example, the good news was I had in the shuttle, I had a little bit more problems. And then I said to myself, let's strap them all in the Moonlander. And that helped me a lot then to go fast through it. You know what I mean? And it was also good for the actors. They like kind of were, they didn't saw anything, and to get them, like kind of worked up and, like admire what they see, you cannot shoot that much anyway. You have the wide shot, and then with 1 or 2 other cameras already, the close-ups, because you never ever get that same reaction again.
The thing about this is a lot of the actors on set must be reacting to nothing in terms of, like they're sitting there reacting to the swarm, but it's not actually there. What is your direction when you're talking to, say, Hallie on set and you're telling her what when the swarm is there?
Well, there's like, say, you like, what you do is like you tell them a little bit, it's far away, now it's coming. And but like you don't want to say too much, because that's immediately kind of makes them angry. So it's like you have to kind of just once explain it really right, and then most of the time they do it right. I mean, it's not that they're idiots, I mean, they're super talented actor, and when sometimes you have to only like stretch it out. I'm always like say you have to stretch it out, so because it takes longer. It takes longer.
I'm not sure if there's another question or two. Otherwise, I have more. We're nearing the end, so in case anyone has a last question. You worked with Bobby Baumgartner as your DP. I think.
Robbie Baumgartner.
I'm very bad at. I apologize for saying the name wrong. But what actually made you want to work with him as your DP? And how does it typically work when you're hiring your crew? Is it something that you are like? Are you interviewing all these people? Are you making phone calls? Like, how does it work when you're putting together your crew?
Robbie, I met during Independence Day Resurgence when I worked with Markus Förderer. And by the way, Robbie is not German. He has only like maybe German in heritage, but he doesn't speak 1 word of German. And we had him as our second DP. The guy who first operates, but like then at one point has to split off and do, the splinter unit. And I'm always running back and forth between the stages. And Marcus, when he couldn't do the movie, like midway, he said to me, I said to him, who should I use as a DP? And he said, Robbie, without even thinking. And he said, and I said, why? Because he's like, he's better at lighting than I am. Because he was a gaffer before, which naturally is a good thing. And because of that, you know, he always liked that small movies. And I said, why not like using like this, like somebody like this for a big movie? And he does a super job. I mean, it's incredible. Also, he's like extremely fast. He's extremely fast. I mean, while I'm like rehearsing with the actors, he's always like, I'm finished. Because he pre-lights, you know, he knows exactly how to pre-light. Also that no other lights are in the set, you know, and then he doesn't only, sometimes with a couple of things, you know, helps it. And yeah, and without him, I couldn't work that fast.
I'm also wondering how happy he was to book a gig like this, and I'm sure he was thrilled to be working on as fast as he could.
Yes, and he was like kind of super ambitious too. I mean, he said like, I kind of said like, Robbie, can we shoot this movie? Actually, I said at the very beginning, I said 59 days, and then I kind of said, no, it's a little. So I said then 61 days, and he said, let's try. I mean, and he was like kind of just unfazed by it.
You have basically been doing movies nonstop. You don't do a lot of television. I'm curious if in the last few years, with all the streaming and all the things, if you've thought about developing like a TV thing that would be done for 8 or 10 episodes or multiple seasons.
Yeah, I mean, like we're working right now on something is called Those About to Die, and it's a 10-hour show about Roman Empire and only concentrates on sports.
Like in the Colosseum?
Oh yeah, Circus Maximus, Colosseum, you name it.
So how far along are you in the development of this?
Well, we're like kind of, we just sold the European rights, so that's already a good thing.
I agree.
And we're like out to a lot of Americans now. We'll see what happens.
Is this one of these things where you might be directing it, or are you just producing?
No, I want to kind of direct at least 5 or 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you been I'm personally fascinated by Roman history and history in general. Is this like a subject that you've had a long fascination with?
Mm-hmm. I was actually once invited with Dean Devlin at that time after Independence Day to go to, Steven Spielberg himself pitched me all their projects, which they had at DreamWorks at that time. And I was listening and no Gladiator. And I said, so what about this Gladiator thing? And he said, oh, we just gave this like a week ago or 2 weeks ago to Ridley.
Were you like, F this?
Anyhow, but look, it's like now I'm doing something which I really love because there's the underbelly. There was like really an underbelly. And you see these like slaves, if they don't get killed and they always like kind of are, in danger of being killed. And then some of them become like world-renowned, one becomes like a Diocles, and he becomes the most, there's not even Jordan, with his whole Air Jordan business is not as rich as he was. He was nearly as rich and powerful as an emperor.
What's interesting that people might not realize is the Colosseum, when you look at it now, you don't really notice it, but below the Colosseum was where everything was.
Not at the beginning.
Really?
Nope.
So what was at the beginning?
Because they wanted to flood it.
So
yes.
what
and
is...
that was then like later done by Domitian, who was like the second son of Vespasian, and he was at one point like closing down the Colosseum for 1 or 2 years and was digging in the ground and building all the different elevators, etc., etc. Before that, they had only like around it, around the second level or third level, and then he just built one below the oval where the sand was.
how does it work in terms of this is a very ambitious idea for a series. How does it work in terms of are you already scripting, and how does it factor
No,
in?
we have like the first 2 scripts.
I'm
You
getting-
cannot sell that.
I was going to say I'm getting the signal, which means I'm not supposed to ask you any more questions about this. I'm just going to say it like this. Roland, I am thrilled that you did this screening with us. I'm so thankful to you for bringing back the Collider IMAX screening series with Moonfall, with you, and a huge thank you to Lionsgate and IMAX for being awesome partners. And to everyone who came out tonight, I want to say thank you. To everyone watching, I want to say thank you. And we have really cool other things coming up, and I can't wait to talk about it. And thank you, Roland, so much. I'm just going to ask for everyone to remain seated, please. And I'm going to ask you to just say thank you and exit stage right.
Thanks, people.